So this is your first album in 5 years. You guys are notorious for taking your time to write albums and put out albums, which is good. It's a very solid album. It's a good mix of the old as well as the new. The more I play it, the more I like it. It's got some really good, catchy tracks, including the ones you've released already. How long have you guys been working on this album?
Well, I think maybe we think we're immortal, and which is far from the truth because it does take us some time to make albums, and we're not the young whippersnappers anymore. So you would think that there would be a little urgency into writing out songs for a record, but I guess this is just how long it takes us to do it. And luckily, I think in the end, the quality is there. So I always kind of say that's quality over quantity for Armored Saint. That's my excuse for taking so long. But I don't know. I think we started kind of writing sometime in probably in 18. We did pretty good amount of touring for When Hands Down, maybe some of the most we've done in years. And then we went back out and we did that Symbol of Salvation record in its entirety tour. And that took us to Europe. We did some stuff in the States. We didn't make it to Cincinnati. As a matter of fact, I don't know the last time we played Cincinnati. Might have been Annie's back in like
Grim Reaper and Halloween.
no, we played there after that. I think we played Annie's with
Oh yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw you.
Moonspell and
Yes, that's right. With Moons, that
Amorphous
was a
or
weird
something.
tour with Cat. Yeah, with Covenant and Moonspell, and yeah, that was a
Right.
great show. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
It
was
was
there for
weird
that,
because
definitely.
they had that tour and we just kind of jumped on it. So it was kind of weird because, it wasn't the best marriage of bands together, but at least on our part. But in the end, we were just happy to play. And we're way overdue. I mean, we've had legendary shows at Bogarts and
Definitely.
I miss playing Cincinnati. We really need to get back there. But in any case, we did a lot of touring, and that's kind of what uh, it kind of got in the way of writing. And it would be perfect if we were some band who go in the back of the bus and write songs, but that just is not the case any longer. But in the end, like I said, we once we got rolling, once you start kind of getting a couple songs done, then you get into a groove, and then it kind of catches a little bit of steam, and that's what happened. And by the end, we were feeling pretty good about the material. But luckily for us, this COVID thing, we had some good luck in the sense that we were actually done recording by the time the quarantine was being not suggested but enforced, if you will, and we were already done. So it was just a matter of handing off the well, it's not tapes any longer, but the hard drive to Jay Rustin and go mix it, and I was done. So it was good.
Right.
Crazy
Just
stuff.
like every one of your albums has progressed and moved and changed and have diversity and all that kind of stuff, even though you had a solid lineup since obviously Dave died. It's the same thing every time I see you guys live. It's always a different lineup, a different experience. You guys are so good at sticking to a set list where you represent all your albums, which is so cool. Even on the new bonus edition of the new album comes with a DVD. I see you guys did On the Way. That's awesome. All the way. It's cool when you guys just do old stuff like that. That's great.
Well, I try to play a song off every record. I think it's important because it kind of shows that you love every record, and
Oh
even
yeah.
if you're just playing one song, it's weird to me when groups omit songs from records, and they could do that from several records sometimes if they're big enough, and that's always a drag because it's almost like you're shunning a part of your career. So to me, I always, even if it's just one song off every record, I try to make that happen. And we're going to do this live stream. We're going to film it. That was on October 10th, and
Right. Right.
and we're gonna play a bunch of deep tracks, and we're
Cool.
gonna play 4 new songs. So it's gonna be fun.
That's awesome. Like I said, the new album is a good mix of the old and the new. I mean, the closer, "Never You Fret," that just represents old school Armored Saint right away. Actually, I've seen that Rock Candy has remastered, March of the Saint and Delirious Nomad, and I saw that there's a Japanese reissue of Raising Fear from 2018 on Universal KK. Is that remastered or reissued?
Wow, I don't know about the Japanese version. Actually, that's news to me. To be honest, I know that we just finalized a deal with BMG to make sure that they're going to keep reissuing the first 3 records because some of those were out of print in America,
Oh yeah.
and I think you could still get them on iTunes, but that you couldn't get like hard copies, and we just worked out a deal with them where they were actually quite favorable in helping us kind of improve on the contract that we originally had. And and now we'll be with them forever. But they're going to be able to like license the record through Metal Blade, and Metal Blade I think is going to re-release all those on vinyl, and so that'll be really cool. But I don't know about the Japanese one. You know, I always just want things to be available. That's all I ever ask. I'm not greedy with record sales. We are what we are. Our size is what it is. But it's kind of the same way I feel about the Anthrax records I make. It's like, look, just can they at least be available, please? If somebody wants to get it, can they at least be able to get it? That's all I ask. So,
well, I have the original Chrysalis pressings of the first two, and then I have everything from when Metal Blade, even the Metal Blade reissues of March of the Saint and the
yeah,
reissues of
yeah.
Delirious Nomad from I guess like 1997 or something like that. But I saw on Amazon last night a Japanese pressing of Raising Fear, and it said reissued, and it had the Obi card and everything. And I was like, wow, at Prime, maybe I should get this. I don't know, it's like $17. I mean, I already have it twice. Maybe I should get it again.
Well, that's, I don't, your hard-earned money. I don't know if you need another Armored Saint version. That's very nice of you. But
Such a good
yeah,
album,
I don't
though.
know. I don't know what the deal is with that. To be honest, was it through Metal Blade in Japan, or because Metal
No, it's
Blade is
it's a
a
It's Universal Records KK Japan.
so yeah, because it's of course it's a first Christmas deal. So I don't know. Yeah, every territory is always a little bit different, and like I said, it depends on where you go and what they're willing to do for it. And obviously Rock Candy was able to license those records, and Metal Blade did too. And then what happened is BMG was kind of saying, okay, if you want to do another pressing of it, now you have to print more than you originally did. And they're like, look, they sold through, but we can't guarantee they're going to sell more now, which is completely understandable. So I don't know, but like I said, now we've worked out a deal where we're going to probably be able to license the records through Metal Blade, and they'll be able to put some vinyl out of those first copies. So we'll be able to, and really, Armored Saints put out most things. We don't really have like some hidden gems in the closet that haven't surfaced. Most stuff is out there. So
Right.
I don't know what we could do, but just again to make it available, because unless realistically, unless it's a new release, like you just said in Japan, if you find a copy, it's probably a used copy, obviously. So it'd be nice to make new copies if somebody wants to actually buy something on vinyl. And, to me, vinyl is still the way to go.
Right. Well, it was surprising to see that Amazon Prime had a Japanese pressing of that album. Speaking of that album, I remember when I first heard it, it's such a solid album, and it was so different from Delirious Nomad, and that was different from March of the Saint. You guys have progressed and evolved so much. When you guys did that Leonard Skinner cover of Saturday Night Special, that was unprecedented at the time in 1988 for a band to kind of step out and do like a Leonard Skinner. Have you seen the new movie documentary Street Survivors?
I haven't. I would love to see that. I'm a huge Skinner fan, and I haven't. I need to see that.
It's pretty good.
I've seen it. Like I've seen it being promoted, but I haven't seen it. So I need to put that on my Netflix queue and check that out. But yeah, I'd love to see that. And great band. And I was just talking to somebody. I did an interview yesterday, and they were asking me about that song, and I was laughing, going, "Well, it's really already a metal song if you think about it. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
heavy. It has the great lyrical content, which is a trip because." Really, it's kind of an anti-gun song, which was pretty bold of those guys from the South to be writing a song like that. Like if that song came out today, they would probably take a lot of grief because it's kind of an anti-gun song. I'm sure all those guys had guns, and I heard crazy stories about them. I don't know if they go into that on the movie about some of their bus trips that were pretty insane, but really technically the way I hear Saturday Night Special, to me, it sounds like, ain't good for nothing except to put a man 6 feet in the hole. So I would not say that's an endorsement of firearms, quite frankly, but it would be controversial if it came out, 2020.
Well, the movie definitely addresses. I mean, Artemis Pyle's the survivor, the drummer from that album. So it definitely, from his perspective, I don't know if it's 100% authentic. It's there's a lot of hearsay, a lot of prevarication, a lot of confabulation. But as a movie, it's really good. It addresses the plane crash and what was happening at that time and what Ronnie Van Zant was like. But they actually kind of sort of address the Saturday Night Special, what inspired that, as well as Give Me Two Steps. So if you're a fan of Skinner, it's definitely worth watching. It's definitely.
So what did it say about Saturday Night Special? I mean,
Basically, Ronnie Van Zant was kind of talking about how even they're from the South, he's not a fan of guns, and then Artemis Pyle was a Marine before he was a drummer and before he let his hair grow long and stuff like that. So he was a soldier. So there's a lot of conflict in that. So
wow, interesting,
and
interesting. I'm pulling up as I'm talking. I'm pulling up my Netflix queue to see. It's called Street Survivors, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Is it on Netflix or?
No, I got the DVD from my library. I think you can rent it from
Ah,
Prime.
okay.
But yeah,
All
I
right.
lucked out. I found it in my library, and I was like, oh wow, this looks cool. And I thought it was gonna be a
Uh,
documentary, and it turned out to be a
it's here.
movie.
Yeah, yeah, it's here. Let's see. It says save, so I have to save it to queue. Okay, cool.
Okay, Netflix
Awesome.
does have it though.
Yeah, they don't have it yet, but I could save it. So
Okay, so they're probably getting it.
yeah,
So that's cool.
that's
So
cool.
yeah, so
Right on. Thanks for the tip.
no problem. It's worth watching. And then you got a
Oh yeah,
great
I
song
love
on the new
a
album
great guy.
called "Missile to Gun," which is really passing in your face too. So
Well, Missile the Gun kind of leans towards it kind of talks a little bit metaphorically about the divisiveness in America a little bit, and
oh yeah,
my suggestion is, I it was funny because like a verse of that song, where it's actually the B section, kind of reminds me of like being in an English pub and watching a soccer match and having a bunch of guys rooting for different teams, and then this is just like my visual of it, and then a fight breaks out, a couple punches are thrown, beer bottles thrown, maybe a couple chairs smashed, and then it ends, and then the guy goes, "All right, we did that. Come on, I'll buy you a beer." And even though we like different teams, let's have a beer together, and we'll get past it. And that's kind of like the theme of the song of like, I know we don't all agree on things right now in the U.S. I mean, it can't be more divisive, but can we still like communicate and like what the problem I think that we're really facing, and I see with a lot of people, I have friends on both sides of the aisle, is that there's a lot of just spewing and there's not a lot of listening, and
oh yeah.
and and I'm honest about that. I believe me, I do not feel an allegiance to a political party. Like, to me, that's anti-metal. There really is. But you know that being said, you give me an incident, or you give me a circumstance, and I'll tell you what my view of it is, and it's certainly not going to be, hey, what did they think? Okay, I agree. No, I think for myself. So that's how I want to view things, because I want to be an individual. So and it sways depending on the circumstance. So to me, I think it should be more about listening, more than spewing, and then maybe we could say, hey, we have more in common than we really think we do. And I think that's where we're stand right now. And that's kind of the problem facing the U.S. And it's just, so that's kind of my way of saying, look, it's like I said, it's kind of like a peace song. I know it doesn't sound like it, but I kind of view it as such. So
Are you the main lyricist for all these? Because your lyrics are so poetic, but then also so thought provoking. I mean, they're just like wow. I mean, I've only seen the lyrics to "Standing on the Shoulder of Giants" and "End of the Attention Span," but God, talk about poetic and thought provoking.
I appreciate that. I write the bulk of the lyrics. Yeah, I mean, Phil did come up with the title for "End of the Attention Span." He told me it, and I was like, "That's a great idea. I love that." And then I said, "Let me write to it," and I did, and it came quite easily because it was easy to kind of write about that particular topic. And but it was a great title of his, and I loved it. And I love writing lyrics. Thankfully, it still comes rather easily to me, which I'm grateful for. And like I said, there's a lot to choose from out there to write about. So if you can't write, you have a really bad block.
Well, even "Punch in the Sky," that verse, it almost sounds you're saying like you said, the barroom brawl and the pubs and everything, like punching this guy. But then you see the video, which is so well done, and you have your fist in the air, and it's like he's punching the sky. But then is that like a raise your fist in the air? But then you also talk about chipping away the stone and getting older and all that kind of stuff. So it's very poetic.
I appreciate that. Thank you, brother. I really do. That's, by just you suggesting that, and it affects you that way. That's, I feel like I did a lot and accomplished a lot. It's crazy about that video because we actually got we did the video, and it's very different from the tension, and the tension was great and it was intense, and this one was different. And it originally had this story to it. We were like, what the hell is this? And this sucks, and we don't want this. And the guy who directed is in Romania, and so we had this a little bit of a language barrier and time lapse, and we were like, and then time started becoming an issue because we wanted it out a certain date, and we were like, oh no, and then in the end we asked him to make some edits, and then he did stuff he filmed wherever he lived, somewhere in Romania, and then it was just so weird because all of a sudden with what was happening here on the West Coast with all the fires and the insanity with that, then he had all this forest footage and And then I was like, oh my God, this now all of a sudden this means something totally different. And it's even taking the lyrics in a different direction. And then it became really amazing to me. So it was a trip. It kind of pushed the lyrics into a whole new realm, and I thought that was really awesome. And I love when that happens because sometimes I'll write, and then all of a sudden the lyrics can mean something else. And a lot of the times when people say something like, "Well, this is what I get out of that song," am I correct? And I always say, "Of course you're correct. You're correct on whatever you think." Because
Right,
I
right.
want the lyrics to feel something different for everybody individually.
And
So
I
it
love the way
feels
it
like it's,
opens with those Julian pipes too, because it's just like,
yeah.
wow, this is just like, am I listening to folk metal here? And then it's like, am I listening, but then it goes into that, but then it has that solid riff and that, that's truly Armored Saint. And even the attention span lyric video, at first I thought maybe you were talking about millennials and the way they're always on their phone and people, these kids, but then it seemed like maybe COVID-19 might have given a little bit of inspiration because about the distancing and everything. But you did do the isolation video, which is interesting because it's the isolation video, and it's the song "Isolation" from March of the Saint. I'm sorry, no, from Raising Fear. I meant to say that.
That's
Uh,
okay.
but I think that's cool. You guys did that, and that's actually going to be a bonus track on the deluxe version of the
Right,
CD DVD version from Metal Blue,
right,
right?
right. Yeah. Attention is, I mean, certainly not limited to millennials. I mean, I have two teenagers and I
Right,
see
right.
how their phones affect them, but I'm the same way. So, I could be somebody who kind of is just ensconced in this, texting with friends or whatever, looking something up and, having my wife yell at me, John, what did you do this? John! And I'm like, what? So I make the joke that it's not limited to certainly the youth. I am concerned about how it's going to affect them because they're kind of raised with it and how that's going to affect them when they're adults. But I think the attention span issue is certainly not limited to people of a certain age. I mean, it affects people who are older as well. So,
Yeah, yeah. Technology's
again,
getting the best of us.
I mean, look, and there's great aspects of technology for sure. There really is. I'm not saying it's all bad. Of course
Oh yeah,
not.
yeah, no.
It's amazing, really. But in the end, it's about balance, and that's it's the kind of sticky part that we all struggle with as humans, and how much balance to have. And you need to be able to walk out of the house, and if you've left your phone at home, not feel like you lost your left arm or something. Like it's okay. You can go take the dog for a walk for a half an hour without your phone. All right, you can do it.
Definitely,
So,
definitely. Well, I
right.
always consider myself a Luddite, but the more and more I find that I'm using my phone just for everything. I mean, not just social media, which I actually despise, but and obviously, for texting and messaging and instant messenger, but even leaving notes. Like I always used to
Yeah.
I'm always pen and
Yeah.
paper, even right now, pen and paper, but now it's like, it's like this notepad is awesome, that you can do on your
Yeah.
phone, and some of the other stuff is pretty cool. How did you
Yeah.
guys get
Absolutely.
How'd you guys get Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses and Hookers and Blow to do keyboards on the album?
Well, Disney's a friend of Jeff Duncan's, and
Oh,
Jeff's
he's a
done
friend of
some
Jeff. Okay.
projects. Yeah, Jeff's done some projects with him, does some shows with them, and so he. I think it was Joey's idea because he knew of the relationship that Jeff had with Dizzy, and he had some ideas for some keyboard parts, and we were honored to have him play on it. I haven't met Dizzy myself personally, but
Okay.
he did some really cool stuff, and again, embellished the songs, and that's what we always want. And it's cool to have these different things like the pipes and the keyboards. These are little. One of our childhood friends' son played the drums with Gonzo on the beginning of "Do Wrong to None," and it's
Oh,
cool to have these people come in and be part of the record because they kind of take it in a little different direction themselves because they're different people, and it's really cool.
definitely. And you could definitely tell how this is like the culmination of a 35-year, career of Armored Saint. How do you keep your vocals so strong? I mean, I may remember like hearing you back in the day and then hearing you with Anthrax, and it's like, how do you keep your vocal? I mean, you've been voted one of the best vocalists of all times. How do you do that?
Well, I mean, I'm honored for anybody who says things like that. I really am. It's really just about repetitive use, believe it or not. I think that's how I become a better singer. Is the more I sing, the more it strengthens. I certainly have had troubles through the years on my voice, and it's caused a lot of anxiety in my life. Probably it's one of the reasons I'm bald, but it's like I I I want to be the best I can be as a singer, and I kind of only know one way to do it, and that's by putting out full throttle. I remember I have doctor I see for my voice when I have troubles. He always looks at me and just kind of shakes his head at me. And when I go see him, it's like, and he's told me one time about Bruce Springsteen. He's like, oh, he's over the top. He's over the top. He just doesn't know when to bring it back. And of course, he's your doctor, so he's trying to tell you, hey, don't talk so loud. And John Bush is the biggest problem. I'm so loud talking. Ask my kids. And he's like, talk softer, John, talk softer. But I was like, I don't know how to do that. And I've been singing metal for 40 years. How am I supposed to talk softly? But that's what I tell my kids. I'm like, I'm not really yelling at you. I'm just, that's how I am, But yeah, I think it's just about knowing the sweet spots of where my voice sounds best. Trying to just progress as a singer. I'm always learning. Still trying to kind of, I don't take too many lessons, but I use old lessons that I still attribute to the way I warm up and just, kind of minimize the extracurricular things that probably do damage to my voice at this point. I don't really, I still like to drink, but I'm not drinking like I used to drink. And that probably has helped a bit. Watch what I eat, things like that.
Well, even your voiceovers for Burger King, I mean, you just sound so, I mean, you just got the right voice and the right tenor, but then it sounds just so good when you sing, even the old stuff and the new stuff. I have to say, when you joined Anthrax back in '93, I thought that was the right choice. Sounded White Noise is one of my favorite Anthrax albums of all time. You just took that band to the next level. I know there's been a lot of, questions about Anthrax, but do you actually foresee a possibility of maybe a 30th anniversary tour in 2023, or is that too far to think ahead? Or
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I always say that, for me, I think it's the really important is to, I always, and I mean this sincerely, I know that Joey Belladonna, he's suffered a little bit through the years in regards to, being, the guy who had to kind of share the spotlight with vocals. And I really think he's the singer of Anthrax. I really feel like he's the guy who's in the band and should be in the band. And when he returned, I think it was the right decision. So I really believe that, that's something that should remain. But in the end, I really, it would, if there was something to do in association with him, I think that would be actually much cooler. And then maybe go out and do like a handful of shows and play some songs that were it just bring back a lot of memories. But I think that's kind of the most important thing, really,
yeah,
is to do it that way.
there was that plan for both you guys to kind of play with Anthrax about 20 years ago with like the Lesser of Two Evils and all that stuff, and it kind of fell through. I've seen you with
You're right.
Anthrax
Yeah.
several times, and every time I saw you with Anthrax, especially when you did the old stuff, it was just you just gave new meaning to some of the stuff from even Fistful of Metal and Spreading the Disease. Speaking of Spreading the Disease, I just saw that Charlie's putting out a new hand sanitizer called Don't Spread the Disease. Have you seen that yet?
I have not seen that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing. It's not a joke. It's a real
It's
thing.
a hand sanitizer and it's called
D-
Spread the
no,
Disease.
don't spread the disease.
Don't spread the disease. That's pretty
But it has
funny.
the cover of Spreading the Disease.
That's
Leave it up to
hilarious.
Charlie to come up with just great ideas and stuff
That's
like
very
that.
creative. That is very creative of
Definitely.
Charlie. That's funny.
Yeah. Well, it all started with me back in, I guess, '83 or '84 when I heard Can You Deliver on Metal Shop. And I thought, oh my God, this sounds like Metallica. And I was in California at the time. And from then on, I just like, oh my God, this band's amazing. I went to Kmart and bought March of the Saint on cassette on Chrysalis Records, and then got Delirious Nomad when that came out. So I've been a fan for you guys for a long time, and enjoyed seeing you live under many different things. I'm glad I got to see you with Dave back in the day, and I'm glad I got to see you with you guys. Have the same lineup now since Dave died, and that's so noble too, because I know they disbanded for a while and then reunited in honor for that. And Resurrection was just such a great comeback, and it's just so good that you guys are still keeping it real and still doing it. And the new album is solid in that respect. And I'm glad people at least heard the first two songs. Like you said, with this live concert, you guys are going to do. You're going to do. You said five new songs.
Four.
Four.
Four new
Okay.
songs. Yep.
What are the other two besides "Standing on the Shoulder of
Well, the
Giants"?
one you gotta wait. You
Oh,
gotta
okay. I'm
wait.
not. It's
You gotta.
okay.
We
Okay.
already heard the record, so you actually have a slight advantage right there. But it'll be cool because let's keep it a bit of a surprise.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, I'm
yeah.
grateful that I got a download, and I burned it right away with songs off of Raising Fear, even the live album.
Well, it's cool too. The packaging of the new record is great, and the artwork and stuff is really cool. That was something that we wanted it to be something that we were proud of, and it came out great. And there's some really cool photos in it, and of course the lyrics and
Yeah,
stuff.
your
So
lyrics. I look
yeah,
forward to that too, because I've only seen
yeah,
lyrics to 2 songs.
yeah. It's well, and I guess sometimes it's hard to understand what I'm saying, and even for myself. But so reading along it's like, oh, that's what he said. But
Right, right.
yeah, I do think that I we're excited about this record coming out, and we're excited about playing some new songs, and because of this bizarre world of COVID-19 and the uncertainty of playing rock shows, which is an absolute drag, and
Oh, I bet.
for me as a fan as well as a performer to not go to shows has just been terrible. Like I really need to see some shows myself, let alone play. So
Yeah, well, me as a
I
heavy
don't.
metal journalist, it's got my
Yeah, I know exactly. I mean, this is and
all the
a lot
shows
of
I had booked
clubs.
for this year, and they're all gone.
I know, and dude, a lot of clubs. I mean, promoters.
Yeah, a
They're
lot of my
like they're
clubs are gone.
struggling.
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
it's really scary actually. So
yeah, it's a whole
and
different.
really the problem is that you just don't know what the future is. That's the scary part too. So I'm hoping that this gets resolved. I the last thing you want to do is not play shows after you put out a new record because you're excited
Absolutely.
about the material and you want to perform those songs live. So at the same time, we didn't want to be reluctant to put out a record because I think if no shows were happening, people still need to be able to check out and hear a record and put on the headphones and get a glass of wine or a beer or whatever, have a shot of whiskey and get into the record. I think that's it couldn't be more important than now. So
I agree. Well, I got mine pre-ordered at deep discount, the CD DVD version, because I want the live Underdog, and for the sake of having this tracks that you guys did, I want the DVD. I want to hear the actual version of Isolation that you did in Isolation acoustically, and obviously, to read your lyrics.
yeah, and those live versions of For the Sake and Underdogs, those came out great. Those were really cool. So you know everything that's happening there, brother. I appreciate that.
I
Thank you.
try to. I'm a fan. That's the reason I do this first and foremost is because I'm a fan, and then I focus on service, and then try to honor the bands and represent them in any way I can because I'm a fan.
Well, and I feel the same way. I love music and I love TV and television shows and movies and anything related to music and art and travel and going to cities. And I still have bought these earrings. I'm not just trying to brown nose Cincinnati here, but I bought these earrings for my wife years ago when we were early on in our dating, and they were from Cincinnati. This cool jewel, like old school jeweler in probably downtown Cincinnati, and she was actually looking for those earrings the other day. And but just being able to travel and experience different cultures, whether it's in the middle of America or Santiago, Chile, or Tokyo, whatever. It's that's a big part of that. I always say that's my college education. I didn't go to college, and not that I'm necessarily proud of that, but I got it. Rock and roll was my sophomore year was opening for Quiet Riot and Whitesnake, and in arenas. So that was pretty cool. But that's been a big part of my life and exposed me to all the different things, and that's a thing that's being affected right now. I mean, I see air travel is just hurting, and I'm concerned about a lot of these industries and the economy. I mean, we got to get through this so we can get people back to work and feeling good about themselves, making money, and being able to go to shows and go to sporting events, and these are important.
Definitely, yeah. Well, John, it's been a real honor and privilege to speak to you. The new album's killer. Your vocals still sound great. Your lyrics are amazing. And I look forward to seeing Armored Saint again sometime live, depending on what the bill is, because I've definitely seen you on some strange bills, no doubt about it. But
Well, 2021, we'll get back to Cincinnati. We're way overdue, and thanks for all the support. I appreciate it, Michael. And we'll have some fun. Stay healthy, and thank you very much for all the support. Really appreciate it.
you bet. You have a good
All
day,
right,
man.
all right, you too, bud.
All right, bye.
Bye bye.